Well, hello, everybody. Thank you very much for being here. Today is Tuesday, December 8th. I'm Trey Crowder. That's Mark Agee. What's up, Mark?
What's up, Trey?
Yeah,
How you doing,
buddy, and
bud?
we got a great episode of Evening Skews coming up for you. Special episode tonight because of our guest, Mr. Andrew Yang. We're going to be talking with him very briefly, but first, a couple of quick announcements. First, I wanted you to know that we're so excited to talk to Andrew. We're going to get straight to it here in just a couple of minutes, but not to worry. We still got the Daily Dumbass and viewer comments and other beloved segments coming to you in the second half of the show. We're just shuffling things around a little bit. That's all. And secondly, if you've been following me for a while, you may be aware that I'm a producer and also the narrator and host of a forthcoming documentary film about universal basic income called Inherent Good. That's actually how I first met Andrew, who was kind enough to sit down with me for an interview for that documentary. And that's not where the relationship ended, because I'm excited to announce right here, right now, that Andrew's organization, Humanity Forward, is presenting a virtual screening event of Inherent Good this coming weekend, December 10th through the 13th, through the app Show and Tell. You can make a donation to see an advanced screening of the film, and all of those donations, this is important, all the donations go towards the National Advocacy Campaign for Direct Cash Relief. And right now, I think if things are working out the way they should, my co-producer Rennie should be in the comments providing actual links for you guys as needed. So I hope you check that out. Thrilled to be partnering with Humanity Forward on that. Inherent Good coming soon. So with that said, let's do the thing, Mark. Let's get to the man himself. Our guest tonight, in my opinion, at this point needs no introduction, but we're going to give him one anyway. He's an American entrepreneur, philanthropist, author, and former presidential candidate. Not just any presidential candidate. The New York Times deemed him, quote, the internet's favorite candidate. And I would just add, in my limited personal experience with him, he's also a hell of a good dude. We're thrilled to have him here. Let's get to it, everybody. Please welcome to Evening Skews, Mr. Andrew Yang. Andrew, hey, man.
Thank you for having me, Trey and Mark. It's a pleasure to be here. I am so pumped for the documentary. I haven't seen it. I was a part of it, a very small part of it, because you know how much work goes into those things.
Yeah.
But I cannot wait to see the end result.
Oh, I think you'll like it. You come across great, man. You know,
It's not about me at all, man.
Yeah.
The shirtless scenes were a big hit.
Yeah, all those beach scenes. Andrew, good to see you again, man. Thank you so much for doing this. I guess let's start simple. Just give everybody a little update on what you got going on now. Geographically, where are you at? What's going on? What are you up to?
I am in the great state of Georgia because
Yes.
we've got not one but two special Senate races on January 5th. And I'm here because we need relief in the hands of the American people, and our government has not been able to get a whole lot done with the current composition, in part because Mitch McConnell likes to say no a lot more than he likes to say yes. So I'm here knocking on doors and getting out the vote for John Ossoff and Reverend Warnock. They're great guys, great candidates, and I'm doing everything I can to help them win.
Right on. So, what's the general vibe there on like sort of on the ground in Georgia? Are you guys feeling good about the efforts down there? Because there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in Georgia. Obviously, lately we got like plenty of Republican hardcore Trumpers in Georgia who have threatened to like boycott the vote and whatnot. Like, how are Democrats feeling about the turnout here?
I definitely agree with the Republican boycott idea. Certainly,
Yes,
if
me
you were
too.
considering voting for
Yeah,
for David Perdue or Kelly Loeffler, you know how you can really make them listen to you? Boycott.
absolutely.
Then they will not be able to mess with you like this again. Listen to your leaders. There was like a Trump lawyer who I think made that case. So the energy on the ground is fascinating. It's really important. A lot of folks know that they have to get out and vote again. To me, this really is a get out the vote battle, because if everyone comes out that voted in November, then the Dems have a really good shot, because obviously Joe won the state by a narrow margin in November.
You're in Columbus yesterday, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, I was. Was that yesterday? Maybe Sunday. I can't remember. I've just been, like weekends have no meaning when you are given by the people. What's a weekend? Anyway.
So you guys were there pumping up canvassers and people good to go door knocking and stuff and volunteers, but like with all the death threats, is there any sort of like concern? I mean, obviously the internet's not real, but it still like feels scary. Even does it feel scary in real life as it looks like on the internet? I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
In real life, people are warm and delightful. There were dozens of people who were there to knock on doors, and it's true when you knock on a door and meet someone. It's true when you have these kinds of canvassing events. It's just a lot of love, a lot of warmth. We can't let the internet influence our behaviors to that degree. I don't think. It's like because it's so much easier to be a jackass online, frankly, than it is. Right. Like if someone's standing right in front of you, like it's actually generally a different thing. Particularly if the person standing in front of you is well intended. So I'm still very, very confident that the internet does not reflect what's going on in most people's day-to-day lives in that way.
For sure. You'd said everything rests on Georgia, and I think I know why, but can you just elaborate a little bit on why this is so important, these races?
Yeah, you have these major efforts to try and get something positive done, and then they all run into the goalie that is Mitch McConnell. And I was joking in Columbus that if the Senate's a car and Mitch is a driver, he's just aiming it at a ditch and just going, like, oh, why isn't this car going anywhere? So if Reverend Warnock and John Ossoff win, then you have a very still evenly divided Senate. So you're still going to need consensus, and frankly, you're going to need to get people like Joe Manchin, who represents West Virginia, on board. So it's not extreme or dramatic at all, but it would actually be a functional legislature in a way that we don't have now. So one of the things I think a lot of folks here can relate to, if you give Washington an excuse not to work, it will take it. You know what I mean? Like right now, if you give people an excuse to say, oh, it's their fault, then we get inaction, which we've seen for the last 8 months or so. So this to me is an effort to make it so that our government can function. And I know that there are some folks who think like bipartisanship is the key. In my opinion, 50-50 is going to lead to very bipartisan efforts.
It is like underrated in one key. Like you're right, McConnell is a huge roadblock. But like even if just being able to put bills on the floor, you'll be more likely to get Republican votes for it, right? I mean, it's like Mitch McConnell being a one-man break is sort of like even screwing up members of his own party who might vote for example, cash relief if they had the opportunity.
Yeah, and I'm super pumped that some members of Congress have introduced a cash relief bill as part of this relief bill, literally just a few hours ago. So thank you to everyone who helped make that happen. Humanity Forward has been a big part of that because we've been calling and wrangling members of Congress. I've had over 50 meetings with members of Congress over the last number of days, trying to let them know, look, 3/4 of your voters are for cash relief. It's common sense. Like every economist is for it. So the goal is to get more legislators in position where they can actually put forward this kind of thing. And there's like a tough rule in Congress right now where you can't propose anything unless it's approved by the majority of the majority. So think about that if you're a minority member of Congress. Like, when I mean minority member of Congress, I mean like, you're in the party that's not in control. Like you literally can't even introduce legislation. I mean, how messed up is that? So there's a reason why nothing's getting done.
Right. And, you're talking about the cash relief and how so many people are for it, which completely makes sense. And maybe it's just my perspective, but it seems to me like there's not enough hammering home of that concept from like Democratic leadership. Like it seems like it could be a layup to really, hammer this forward, but like Pelosi and Schumer, and I feel like they're not exactly screaming this from the rooftops. How do you feel about that? You think that's fair? Why do you think that is? If you do think it's fair?
I'm with you 100%, Trey. I mean, this stuff is so obvious. It's like if 3/4 of us are for it, and all you have to do is look around our communities. I mean, you find all these families who are struggling. What can you do to help them? And if you say like, oh, we're going to jam money into PPP, it's like, well, guess what? Maybe they're not a business owner, or maybe their business doesn't have a banking relationship, or whatever the heck. I mean, there's so many Americans who are falling through the cracks right now. So it should be common sense to every member of Congress. Certainly, it's been mystifying why leaders have not led with this to a higher degree. But you're seeing new leaders emerge. And I am so grateful to the members of Congress who have raised their hand and said, hey, people want cash relief. It's obvious. So shout out to Lisa Blunt Rochester and David McKinley, who were the bipartisan, I might add. So Lisa Blunt Rochester is a Democrat from Delaware, and David McKinley is a Republican from West Virginia, and they put forward this cash relief legislation. And you look at that team, you're like, okay, let's get on board with that, because this is a no-brainer. And you do wish that leadership could have provided that in the beginning. But the problem right now in my mind is that you have this very unipolar negotiation going on where you essentially only had three people who were the key decision makers. It was Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, and then there was Steve Mnuchin, who was negotiating on behalf of the government. So if you were another member of Congress, you were at arm's length from these negotiations. So to get common sense across the table, I think it took some of these other members to step up. So thank you, Lisa. Thank you, David. And thank you for everyone who's supporting that bill.
I think just so people don't understand what's at stake here, but besides, I think people know about the insider trader scandals that both Loeffler and Perdue were involved in. But even previously to being involved in this, serving the Senate, Loeffler's big career move was she established a credit default swap clearinghouse in the Cayman Islands to use as an offshore tax haven. That was her big contribution to the business world. And Perdue was the CEO of Dollar General, and then lost a lawsuit from the shareholders because when he sold out the company to a big private equity firm, he apparently ripped off his own shareholders who were there to rip off poor people by running Dollar General. So it's a real turducken of not cool people there.
David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler both had insider trading issues when they found out about the coronavirus. So imagine you're in the Senate, people explain to you that this pandemic is going to rage and kill people and shut down the country, and your first move is to balance your stock portfolio. Literally, Kelly Loeffler sold millions of stock, and then she bought stock in things like Zoom. That is your move. It's not like, hey, I'm concerned about the people of Georgia or the people of the country. It's like, oh, how is this going to impact my vast riches? Like that is literally the level of behavior that we saw out of these folks. And I think David Perdue has one thing going for him that Kelly Loeffler does not. He actually got elected by the people of Georgia. Kelly Loeffler, a lot of people in Georgia are looking up, being like, she's our senator. When did this happen?
Right.
I don't even know this happened, because she got appointed in part because she made a 6-figure donation. So when I'm on the ground here in Georgia, there are a lot of Warnock and Ossoff signs. There are some Purdue signs. A Loeffler sign is like a freaking, unicorn, or like if you see a Loeffler sign, you're like, a Loeffler sign. And even when you do see a Loeffler sign, it's because there's a whole slew of Purdue sign. They felt bad and they just stuck a Loeffler sign in there.
Yeah, I was reading people saying that's a real possibility that people split their ticket and ends up being Warnock and Purdue winning, which is just a really funny, dumb result that would happen.
I mean, that would be a very, very odd thing, Mark, because it'd be very rare for someone to bother showing up for a special election January 5th and then split their votes. Would be unusual voter behavior. But if there's any instance where that might happen, it might be this one.
Yeah, it's totally bizarre. Speaking of direct cash relief, that was your big issue during the primary, the presidential primary, was universal basic income, which I hesitate to ask you to explain because it says what it is in it, which is a nice little messaging bonus, right?
Oh, not at all, Mark. I mean, I'm here, and I appreciate the work you all do. It's new to a lot of people, but we called it the freedom dividend. And what we're saying is, look, at this point, we all should be treated like owners and shareholders of the richest country in the history of the world. That's even more true with this pandemic, because if you look at the bartender or the food truck operator or the security guard who doesn't have a job right now to go to, we know it has nothing to do with anything they did or didn't do. It's just that the bar shut down. No one's going to the place where the food truck, used to have business. The security guard's mall is shut down. I mean, whatever it happens to be. So we need to treat ourselves like the owners of this country instead of the supplicants. You know what I mean? It's like this country is ours. Everyone has intrinsic value. We should be able to treat ourselves with a degree of dignity and humanity. So universal basic income is a plan that's been around for ages, and they've had it in effect in Alaska for decades with oil money, where everyone in Alaska gets $1,500 a year, no questions asked. So a family of four gets $6,000. Some of you are like, Alaska, that sounds pretty good. So one of the things I was suggesting on the trail is look, what's the oil of the 21st century? It's data, it's technology, it's AI. All this stuff's coming online, and people are not seeing a dime of it. We're selling our data for $200 billion a year, and not seeing a dime. You log onto these platforms, and like Facebook's like pelting you with ads and whatnot, or like YouTube and the rest of it. They're just selling and reselling you all the time, to the tune of billions of dollars, paying next to nothing in taxes or nothing in taxes, and then we see nothing, and then people are looking around being like, "What the hell happened to the economy?"
Right.
Yeah.
So, you were talking earlier about it being like a common sense idea when we're talking about, cash relief when it comes to the stimulus package and what's going on in the Senate right now. And I've always thought that, giving more money to regular people also seems like a common sense idea. And I feel like you can make the argument, you were the UBI guy, right? That was your thing. You were out there at the forefront, pounding
Yep.
the drum for it. And you also kind of, from most people's perspectives, had a meteoric rise. You kind of came out of nowhere and people immediately latched on to what you were saying. And I feel like the main thing you were saying was we need to be giving more money to Americans on a regular basis, right, from the government. So do you think that like just your personal success that you saw as a candidate is indicative of the general feeling towards UBI as a concept? Like it means something, right?
Yeah, the majority of Americans are for universal basic income now,
Right.
Trey. Again, 3/4 are for cash relief. Those numbers were not that high when I was running for president. If they were, I might have done better. But now but now they're that high because we're in the circumstance. And there are dozens of mayors who come out for it, including the mayor of Atlanta, the mayor of Los Angeles, the mayor of Newark, and on and on. So it's wildly popular. To the extent that I'm popular, I'm just going to try and use it as an instrument to get positive things done for the American people. So one of the ways I did that was by meeting with members of Congress, and they're willing to talk to me, frankly, because they know that I've got a following and can bring some support to bear. So talking to members of Congress who want to do the right thing, trying to get people to vote here in Georgia for John Ossoff and Reverend Warnock. One of the fun things, and I think this is true for you guys too, it's like the more you do for people, the more people are like, oh, okay, this person's not so bad, or like this person actually seems to be trying to help, And there's so much cynicism built up in America that at first people are like, what's your angle? What's going on?
Right.
Like, is this real? But then if you just keep at it long enough, they're like, you know what? He might actually be sincere.
I mean, there was one of the interesting things I was looking at today was among the two Democratic candidates in the primary who polled the highest with 2016 Trump voters were you and Bernie, and you don't have anything else in common other than you're both were concretely promising people help, right? I mean,
and we don't seem like we're products of the system, I'm actually talking to Bernie this week about how we can try and collaborate and getting money to people. But there is something up with kind of like the institutional vibe of our government, of our media, of like a lot of the leaders in both parties, but certainly I think some of the Democrats kind of give that vibe off a little bit more than others. And I think people sensed that me and Bernie just had visions for how we could make people's lives better. And there was also a sense that some of the current institutions maybe weren't thrilled about, about some of the things we were putting out there, which for some voters like just made them like us more. But certainly I was deeply indebted to Bernie and inspired by him. I supported him in 2016, and when he put his arm around me and told me he liked me, it was like one of my proudest moments on the trail. Honestly, I felt like Bernie likes me because he's like kind of a hard guy to read that way. Like you can be around him and not know if he likes you.
Right. I don't know exactly how to even frame this question. I feel like you kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier. Do you feel, and nobody is trying to put a positive spin on the horrific situation we're in with the pandemic and everything, but what kind of effect do you think it specifically has had on the public's perception of universal basic income?
Now, my take on it, Trey, is that the pandemic had dramatically accelerated our problems. Like some of the things I was campaigning on was like, hey, Amazon's going to close the malls. And then some people were like, is that happening? And then COVID happened. And then like a lot of retail is dead. I mean, if you look at all the bankruptcies of some of these major businesses, and companies are doubling down on automation very quickly. Sam's Club, robot janitor in every location. Tyson
Right.
Food, meatpacking robots. Google AI to replace call center workers. All these announcements came out over the last number of weeks. Some of them were COVID related. So COVID sped us up, and the only hope we have is that COVID also speeds up the solutions. You know what I mean? Like I was going around saying, hey, we should give everyone $1,000 a month. And then people were looking at it being like, oh, that seems awfully dramatic. And then COVID happened and everyone looks around being like, wow, that's pretty much the only thing we can do that makes sense. So that is the thing I'm fighting for, because I agree with you. You cannot put a good spin on any of this, this pandemic and the rest of it. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people have lost their lives. Millions have lost their jobs, at least 10 million that we know of. So the least we can do is accelerate some of the solutions along with the problems. That's my take. If we get all the problems and none of the solutions, then it's the worst of all worlds.
Automation is like, this is a funny, interesting dynamic, because automation is like the stick argument for universal basic income. It's like that's the bad thing that's coming, but like it also would free people up to like start their own businesses with a little bit of a cushion without being afraid. It would allow people to do more like labor organizing, where they wouldn't have to worry so much about their job losing your job wouldn't be a death threat, basically. So there's like it feels like there's lots of like there's a stew of reasons why it would be a good idea to make the world a better place.
Yeah, I'm like you all, where I'm an entrepreneur trying to make good things happen. And if people had more money in their hands, there'd be a lot more people trying to do something that they've had inside of them. Whether that's start a business, bakery, nonprofit, band, sort of give rise to their own creative impulses, do something that maybe the market has not been super rewarding of. But if we all had a bit of extra money, then we'd actually be like, sure, I'll pay for your, tutoring or, whatever it is that you want to offer. So that is the only path forward. It's like you have scarcity and abundance at war with each other in America, and scarcity is winning by a mile. I mean, you got to be honest. Like scarcity is freaking dominating, and it's very hard to be optimistic and do something like start a business successfully if you're doing it from a position of scarcity and desperation or subsistence. If someone's in a position of security and stability and optimism, and then they can reach out to people and say, hey, I really think our community needs this, and other people say, yeah, I agree with you, and then they'll patronize the business or spread the word. I mean, that's the way entrepreneurship happens, and I'm deeply passionate that we need more entrepreneurship. We're going to get much less of it with the current circumstances, obviously. Yeah. You look around, like no one's going to be out there. Like our current bars and restaurants are like can't stay open. No one's going to be like, what this market needs? Like my new bar concept. I mean, it wouldn't make any sense.
Right. Yeah. And another another thing that's worth pointing out that I've seen pop up in our comments some too is that also this idea UBI also puts a value on work that is currently not valued by our economy, meaning like caregiving work, people raising children or taking care of old relatives and things like that. Things
Trey,
that absolutely have a value.
Are you a dad? What's your situation, Trey? I
can't
remember.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. I got an 8 and a 9-year-old, man.
I just got a dog, but she takes a lot of time, so I could turn out a few gigs so I could play a little more fetch. So I'll take UBI. But that's like the thing about this is like sometimes we forget, you get so lost in career stuff and work, like you forget what the point of being alive is. And like one thing the market doesn't reward is you turning on extra hours of work to do things like raise your children.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like as a parent myself, I'm an 8-year-old. My wife works harder than I do for sure, and the market values her work at 0. My dad just turned 80, and I live in fear of him falling ill. And then if he were ill, like presumably, like I would be able to try and take care of him. Market values that at 0. Market values volunteering, a lot of arts and creativity. Unfortunately, for the folks who have those aspirations, like the market undervalues that stuff very systematically. So we have to try and evolve, really. If we let the market value all of our activity, you're going to see, I mean, this is what's going on in this country right now. People are having fewer kids. People are getting married less. People are more depressed than ever. People are struggling with addiction and suicide more than ever. It's like all of the things that you value in life are getting eroded because the market does not care about them. You know what I mean? Like you
Right.
like if I help you, if I go to my neighbor and like, help you clear your driveway or something like that, the market doesn't like that. You know what I mean? So like all of like the stuff that that makes the world go around positively, that the market rewards, then we're going to get more of that. But then all the other stuff we're already seeing less of. So what we have to do is evolve and say, look, some of this stuff has value, whether the market recognizes it or not. The market is not all seeing, all knowing, and all powerful. Like the market is going to kick many Americans to the curb if you have like artificial intelligence that can do that job. And it's like, is that right? Are we just going to accept a future? So you're right about this, guys, both of you, where it's like there's the stick and the carrot. I'm passionate about both of them. I'm passionate about the positive vision of what we can do if like we actually all have some money in our pockets and have intrinsic value. There's inherent good in it, to the point of the movie.
There you go.
But also the stick is real. I mean, we're seeing a version of the stick, and it's beating the crap out of us.
No, like 19 million people are facing eviction by the end of the year or something like that. It's like it's a bad place, and the scleroticness of our government has been frustrating for a long time. But in the face of, I mean, like, could we mount a resistance to an invasion right now? I mean, I know I'm not under threat of it, but like, if there was an existential threat to America, could we face it? Because I don't know if we could. Yeah, it's very weird.
Oh, we could definitely face it, Mark. Come on, we're the most heavily armed society ever. It'd be like Red Dawn style. It's like the Russians come in, like, parachute in, and then everyone in the town like busts out their rifle. Like, bring it on, aliens. Do you guys see that stuff about how the Israeli leader who's like, yeah, aliens are real? He actually called it the Galactic Federation. Can you believe that crap? Yeah. So now in my vision, it's like the aliens descend Red Dawn style, and then we can still do it though, Mark. Bring it on, USA, USA. The aliens don't want to come here. The aliens can pick another country like Canada.
It was pretty edifying that like Trump got his first national security briefing and was immediately like, we need a space force.
Right.
I was talking to my wife about this last night. I was like, hey, is this aliens thing legit? And then you read it and it's like, well, this Israeli guy seems pretty legit. And then then you have to ask those questions like, do I believe in intelligent life? And it's like, well, it's a big universe, so like a lot of time.
Yeah. I'm always in the camp that's like, yeah, they mathematically there definitely exists, but why would they come here? And maybe it's not like there's no guarantee they'd be more advanced than us. They could be 1,000 years behind us. We might be the most advanced species in the universe. I mean, so that's a scary thought.
Yeah, but if you have like all of these different places, man, I mean, some of them have to be more advanced. Then eventually they'd figure out how to like buzz by us and screw around.
Well, listen, guys, I could sit here and talk about aliens with you two all night long. But, we got to be respectful of Andrew's time, get him out of here shortly. So I guess I just want to ask Andrew, like, what do you got coming up? What should people look out for? I heard some rumblings about mayor in New York. I'm sure you're not going to make an announcement here on the Evening Skews, but what do you got? What's coming up for Andrew Yang? What should people look out for? And also anything you would like people, to do, any support they could give and that type of thing, or where you'd like to direct people's attention. Just hit us with all that.
Oh, thank you so much. The first thing is I'm here in Georgia trying to win these Senate races. So if you want to help on this level, I wonder if I can put it in the fundraising effort I have here in Georgia is called winbothseats.org, and it sends money to community organizers here in Georgia who are trying to get out the vote. So that's what I'm doing right now. And then number two, what I'm doing also right now, which I would love everyone's help with, because I think this is the main topic, is we are pushing for cash relief out of Congress right now. And one of the things I say to folks is, look, $1 trillion is getting spent, and we need to have some of that money come to us, like our people, families. So I have conversations with members of Congress all the time about this, and I'm happy to say that I believe we've played a role in the legislation that's coming out now that's trying to have stimulus checks be part of this bill. So if you think that we should be getting treated as well or better as the big megacorps out of Congress, go to movehumanityforward.com, and everything you do for us is about trying to get money for the people. And I'm happy to say, like, we've genuinely already had results. Like, I looked at my team today and was like, I believe that we might have helped unlock $100 billion, $200 billion of value for the people. And the ROI on that is like insane. Like, I looked around and said, this might be the most impactful thing I've ever done. in my life, because like if we unlocked another 100-200 billion dollars for your families, your people, I mean, that's immense alleviation of like pointless scarcity. So if that sounds good to you, movehumanityforward.com. And as part of that, definitely support Trey's documentary, Inherent Good. Humanity Forward's hosting some screenings in the next number of days. And we have to make that movie a success because it helps shed light on what a society of abundance could look like. We have the wealth. I'll tell you guys, like, I ran for president, and you know what? One of the main questions I got was always like, where are you going to get the money? How are you going to pay for it? And then push comes to shove when the pandemic, and they're like $2.2 trillion. There you go. And the point I used to make was back before the pandemic, I was like, do you remember voting for the $4 trillion bailout of Wall Street in 2008? Like, does anyone remember anyone like complaining about where the money was then? And they were like, huh, that's interesting. And then here we are again. And then they got to it. They were like, here's 2.2 trillion. What? Not enough? Like, so we have the money 100%. We just need to have it come to us and not go into the bowels of these corporations. So thank you for the work that you do, Trey. Inherent Good. I can't wait to see it. And there's a lot of inherent good in that message. So thank you both.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. Well, there you have it, everybody. Thank you so much, Andrew. We really appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time. It's always a pleasure.
Good luck fixing the subway.
Yeah, people say they don't even recognize you without the
I
beard.
know. I just shaved. Well, they'll get used to it. Thanks.
Guys, happy holidays.
You too. Happy holidays. Keep fighting the good fight. Thanks, Andrew.
Bye, everyone.
All right, Andrew Yang, everybody. With the final note on my facial hair, I don't know what to tell you. Movember is over. I've had that mustache since the entire pandemic, and it just felt like time to change it up.
But just to let everybody know behind the scenes, before we went live, Andrew asked Trey if he lost weight, and they talked about Peloton bikes for a little bit. So
that's true. He's such a sweet guy. I tell you, I like that guy on a personal level so much. Yeah, and it has nothing to do with him asking me if I'd lost weight or not. It's just a totally separate thing. But
I was texting you about this earlier, but the how to pay for it thing is really interesting. And I was reading up and listening to podcasts about modern monetary theory, which I do not recommend if you're unless you're sleepy. But it's very easily paid for, and people cry. People just don't want it. They don't want to do it.
So I know I made a few announcements tonight, but I also just want to put out there, if you guys are watching, do not already know, I'm doing another online stand-up comedy show this Saturday with Chief Georgia correspondent Corey Ryan Forrester and Chief Legal correspondent Diamond Drew Morgan. This coming Saturday at 6 p.m. on RushTix. You go to rushtix.com, look up Well Red. That's Well R-E-D. If you watched our last one in August, first of all, thank you so much for that. Secondly, it is entirely across the board, brand new material, and we got a lot to talk about, so I hope you guys will check it out. We're really looking forward to it. My sister is maybe going to be putting a link in the comments if she... I asked Paige to do it, because I can't do all that at the same time I'm doing this, so I text my sister. I was like, could you throw a link in there or whatever? And she's like, yeah, I'll do it. She said, I got to set my alarm for 7 p.m. so she don't forget, so we'll see if she... forgot or not. But listen, let's just let's do the rest of the show, man. I promised it earlier, we got the daily dumbassery for y'all, just like on any other episode, just a little bit later. So producer Matt, won't you hit that DD graphic? Yes, tonight's honoree is any of you who are looking forward to the COVID vaccine. Why are you a dumbass for looking forward to the COVID vaccine? Well, because you don't need it. You know why? Vibrators, something like that. Listen, don't take it from me. Take it from these two Tammys. Matt, you can play that clip.
We don't have the vibrational frequency to host that virus.
And I taught her that.
So if you don't have that vibrational frequency right here, you're not going to get it.
Yeah.
We don't have the vibrational frequency to get COVID?
Correct. Do you know that everything in this universe vibrates and is alive? There is life with that. That's what I'm talking about.
I don't put life into COVID. I'm not going to wear a mask.
I'm not going to wear a mask either.
I never wear a mask.
But we're not going to wear them.
Hey, My favorite part was when the other lady goes, "I taught her that." Like,
I know, mine too. She's so proud of spreading this bullshit around to her friend, but also it's like this seems like an example of like somebody who finds out a thing. It is true as I understand it, and I don't know much more about physics and whatnot than these people do, but there is a vibration to everything in the universe. Atoms and all that molecule, they do vibrate. And this seems like one of those examples of people like hearing a real thing that also is a smart person fact to know, and hearing that and having it related to this other crazy shit they think and just latching onto that and going with it. It's like, did you know that things vibrate? And because of that, the plague is fake. It's like,
I can tell you what she did. She appears to have mashed up string theory with The Secret and also remixed it with a Trump press conference. And so she's like, everything vibrates, yes, but if I don't put out COVID vibrations into the universe, I will not receive it back. And like, if I put on a mask, I'm manifesting a fear of COVID, which will therefore bring it to me. Right? That's what she's
right. Doing. Yes, she said, I'm not going to give life to COVID.
Yeah.
The ones that I'm not going to give life to COVID, and I refuse to wear a mask. So yes, like you said, if I don't wear a mask, if I don't acknowledge its legitimacy, then it cannot kill me and my mammal. And that's what I have decided.
It's like the universe of like Dumbo flying. Like he can only fly if he believes he can fly, right?
Right, yeah.
If she carries around her Dumbo feather, she will not get COVID. She'll fend it off.
You got to follow your heart during a plague, Mark. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, follow your passion.
So we got some honorable mentions for you. First up, I don't know how many more of these we're going to have. Who am I kidding? He ain't going anywhere. But the current reigning champion of Daily Dumbasses, Mr. Donald Trump, the president, for this moment, still the president. Yeah, had a rally in Georgia, ostensibly to support Loeffler and Perdue, but he got into all kinds of other shit, though. Imagine that. We got a couple of clips for you. Let's just hit that first one, Matt.
Blueberries, pepper, squash, and cucumbers. Who does cucumbers around here? Because I like cucumbers. I'm the only one. I like cucumbers.
Well, yeah, there you go. Nothing to say, nothing to do. That's our president. I hope you guys like it. No, I don't know what happened. There's some technical difficulties, obviously. I believe that was the one where he was.
There was a big vaccine. Matt says he can hear it, but in case you guys couldn't, it's not clear. Maybe it doesn't come through for me and Trump. Me and Trey. Oh, it was the blueberry. Okay, we showed that. So Matt says we showed the one from the rally on Saturday at a big rally for Loeffler and Perdue, which is really funny. You should go watch the highlights. But he went off on a rant, I guess, about Georgia produce, where he started listing stuff to grow in Georgia, like blueberries, whatever, and then got to cucumbers, and then started talking about how much he liked. He said, "I like cucumbers." That was the big punchline.
Yeah, he did the "I like turtles" thing from that 6-year-old who went viral saying "I like turtles." That's what the president did.
I gotta be honest, Trey. I do not believe he likes cucumbers.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't buy that. Like pickles, maybe, because I know he's a big fan of McDonald's, like cheeseburgers and whatnot. So I can see him being a pickle guy, but like. He ain't eating cucumbers. He don't eat any vegetables, right? For the most part, it doesn't seem like he don't believe in them.
Yeah. And this next one, this is from today. There was a big COVID Warp Speed Celebrator event, and the president is remarkably optimistic about how good it is that people get COVID.
Well, CDC puts out their guidelines, and they're very important guidelines. But I think that the vaccine was our goal. That was number one, because that was the way it ends. Plus, you do have an immunity. You develop immunity over a period of time. And I hear we're close to 15%. I'm hearing that, and that is terrific. That's a very powerful vaccine in itself. And just tremendous progress has.
So congrats to the 15%.
Yes, good for you guys. Doing good. Yeah, it's not, it no longer is it is what it is. No, now the COVID rates in this country are terrific. We're doing a great job. We are rocketing towards the finish line of herd immunity. The faster we can get people sick with this potentially fatal virus, the better off we'll be in Trump's America, Mark.
I mean-
We're doing good, 15%, but we can do better, I think. Take those masks off, everybody. Go to the dollar store. Do your thing.
I have a like back at the beginning of this, people were throwing COVID parties like chickenpox parties.
They
trying
were,
to-
yes.
They'd have
Yep.
immunity.
Yep.
We all moved on from this 9 months ago. The president is still trying to encourage America to throw chickenpox COVID parties. But Matt has let us know there were two questions I wanted to ask Andrew that we didn't get to. One was like, what secrets do you learn running for president? Do you have to take a deep state blood oath or go to any eyes wide shut parties? That one's obviously a joke. But the second one, the news from today, was that Trump did come out for more cash relief. But he talked himself down from 1,200 like last time to 600. And my question was going to be, Trey, how much money do you think rich people think $600 is?
That couple gallons of milk, and whatever else poor people like.
And apparently either think it's enough to buy a couple gallons of milk or like
your rent and everything right the whole time. Yeah, either way, it could go either direction. I have no idea. It's like that Arrested Development quote, like, it's a banana. How much could it cost? $10 or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, they have no idea. The idea that he's like supporting it happening at all, but cutting it in half is just the most like modern era Republican Party shit I can imagine.
But the people love him. Like, and we was one more clip we wanted to show to show the enthusiasm gap in Georgia, which is just really funny. This is from the same rally where we talked about how much you love cucumbers. Now, when you watch this clip, I want you to remember that I Like Cucumbers got a huge ovation. Now listen to the crowd respond to Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue.
We need you to vote January 5th. If you're our voice on January 5th, we'll be your voice for years. We have to make sure that we keep America strong. Thank you. Well, you know what? My colleague, David Perdue, my good friend, wants to make sure that you vote. We are going to vote because if we don't vote, we will lose the country. If we vote, we will win.
Hey guys, I want to take liberty just 1 second. I want to say something personal to President Trump. Hey guys, I want to say something for President Trump personally. Guys, I want to say something personal for President Trump. God bless you. We love you, Mr. President. We love the First Lady. And we're going to fight and win those 2 seats and make sure you get a fair, square deal in the state.
Dude,
So-
that has got to be so disheartening if you are either of those candidates or anybody on their team or just Republican leadership, because I mean, like, not only was the crowd not giving a single fuck about what Loeffler and Perdue were saying, a fucking chant in opposition started in the middle of, they were saying fight for Trump, right? Isn't that what they were saying? Fight for Trump, fight for Trump. They were basically expressing their distaste and disapproval of these candidates while on stage at their own rally in Georgia, 100% only because of Donald Trump's presence. Like, it is not, I would be, if I was on the other side of things, I would be fucking terrified right now, frankly. However, I'm not, so I'm loving it.
My favorite part was, like, it's very subtle if you notice this or not, but like when Kelly Loeffler was in the middle of her student council, clumsy, sweaty, America's a land of contrast ramble, where she didn't know quite what she wanted to, how to tell people to vote without acknowledging that Trump lost and not be president anymore. Trump did he signals to David Perdue to take the mic from her. He does a little you take. That's what she shifted to intro and Perdue, and then the crowd, because Perdue's going to be a better performer than Kelly. Trump has a sense of like performance, right? He's a circus master. So she's terrible. So he gives it to Perdue, and the crowd starts chanting where Perdue can't get him to shut up and listen to what he has to say. It's just perfect. Just
yeah,
perfect.
and also like Perdue, like, Trump brings him in and he does have a better sense of being a performer, and I could tell because he went straight to pandering in the middle of that. Like, he understood what direction it was going, and he goes straight to like, no, everybody listen, I just want to say how awesome Donald Trump is. Like, all I'm trying to say, I know you don't want to hear me talk at all, But all I want to do is talk about how awesome he is. Will you please just let me do that? And they're still chanting through it. Fucking fight for Trump, fight for Trump. It's just, it's
You ever,
fucking chef's kiss.
You ever been at a wedding where like the loser brother gets a token like get groomsman spot?
Yeah.
And so he's giving a toast and he's trying to talk about how happy he is for his brother, but everyone else knows he just got divorced and got out of rehab. That's the vibe.
Yeah. All right, so hey, we're about to go to viewer comments, questions, and comments from you guys. Mark, I want to sort of tee this up. You could ask us anything, throw anything out there. We had another thing I did want to try to get to, which is this was a Daily Dumbass nominee from Mr. Mark Agee here, saying that we on the left, the Biden administration, however you want to put it, is a good nominee for Daily Dumbass because the Biden administration has announced they will create a position with the sole focus of reaching conservatives, trying to reach conservatives. So I take it that you think that's a dumbass proposition, Mark? Just no hope in that anymore. I think I agree with you, but how you feel about that? Fruitless endeavor.
The same day they're gonna form a cabinet level department of Republicanism. The House Republicans were saying that they're going to like challenge Biden's win on the floor of the House January 6th.
Right.
So, and Ted Cruz was loudly saying he would gladly perform as lawyer in front of the Supreme Court to argue that Pennsylvania's electors should be overturned if the case made it there, which it didn't. That was today's other news. The Supreme Court 9-0 told those two Pennsylvania politicians to go to hell.
Right. It can't be done, right? Like at the point we're at right now, and I don't know how we like come back from that, but they're so obstructionist and we're so polarized and everything that it's just a waste of time, it feels like.
Here's how this negotiation goes, right? When you try to meet them in the middle. So I'll be Republicans and you be Democrats. All right. I want 10 and you want 0. So what do you offer me?
You're Republicans and I'm Democrats?
Yeah.
You want 10, I want 0? How about 7?
How about 20?
Well, I thought you wanted 10. We could do okay, fine. We could do 8. We could do 9.
35. That's like, they fundamentally don't want to pass bills.
Right.
You can do old-fashioned hardball politics where you put the bill on the floor and dare them to vote against the bill that would help their constituents when they're up for re-election in 2 years. You can do that, but what you can't do is preemptively negotiate against yourself by trying to meet them in the middle on the text of the bill, because they'll do what they did on healthcare and waste the first 2 years of Obama's administration. Right?
Yeah. Dan B says, if you've been watching OANN, One American News Network, for the last few years, there is no bringing them left. And I mean, I'm inclined to agree with you. Not if they are aware that that's what they're doing is coming left anyway. And what I mean by that is a whole lot of them would love, a check right now, given what everything is going on. But if you point out to them that that's socialism or whatever, then they're not going to be for it. But they would take it. And I think that is actually the only version of working with them that exists. As silly as it sounds, it's like there are things that they are open to, but semantics stand in the way. You know what I mean? Like, you just term it as no, we're just going to take care of your mama. And it's like, that's actually socialized medicine we're talking about. And without letting them know that's the only kind of hope you have for getting across to them, I think.
It's always like when people have things they like them, like Kentucky's Obamacare exchange is called Connect. And when you poll it, people say they hate Obamacare but love Connect. I think it's
right. Yes, exactly. Chaotic 3 exclamation points. Super chaotic says, what are your guys' thoughts on the Senate being flip? And I assume he means flipped. And I assume it means runoffs. What's going to happen in Georgia with the runoffs? Okay. As we've talked about, multiple times up to this point, I'm thrilled with everything I'm seeing coming out of Georgia so far, with how Trump seems to be inadvertently sabotaging the GOP's chances there. Having said that, I'm not from Georgia, but I am a lifelong Southern liberal, and thus I still am very much conditioned to expect the worst when it comes to things like this. I think that we got some great shit going for us in Georgia right now, but I cannot allow myself to truly believe. I hope it happens, but I don't. Gun to my head, do I think it will? I don't know. Maybe one of them, probably not two. We'll see what happens.
On the hitting side, you got like the polling in Georgia is actually pretty good from the presidential race, and the polling looks like right now a narrow lead for Ossoff and Warnock, right? On the not hitting side, and you also got stuff like we talked about the other day, like a million people requested mail-in ballots. Only 5 million people voted in general. So like, if turnout hits 2-3 million, I think the Democrats probably win, because that's a big for a runoff race. That's a big turnout. On the not hitting side, you got that the Republicans are already up to their old bullshit. They've already closed a bunch of polling places that were open for January 5th.
Right. Yeah.
They're in court trying to, because I'm not a lawyer, but court-wise, like challenging things after they happen is kind of a no-no. It's something called leches or whatever. But you can challenge beforehand. Like a lot of the Republican court cases got thrown out because they're trying to challenge mail ballots after they'd already been cast. They're preemptively trying to cut back on mail balloting in court right now, and doing shit like that, and throwing people off rolls and doing all that. So it's going to be that's the tension right here.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Laura Orball says, Trey, what happened to the window air conditioner? I can't pull this part. It's still right back there. I just I don't know. I like the idea of it because I'm white trash and whatnot. I like the idea of it being in there, but I got to a point where I was like, no, I don't know. I kind of miss my old blue background. I don't even know why. I can't give you a good answer for that. I just flip flopped on it, politician style, last week, and also the aforementioned stand up show we're having this week. Something about like just a curtain behind you or whatever just feels more appropriate for like a stand-up appearance, I think. And that's coming this Saturday, so I just tried to get all my shit together for that going on, I guess. Ameline says, Amlin says, Ossoff debated an empty podium, LOL.
Yeah. Did you see the clip?
So
no. they had back-to-back debates the other night for the four candidates. Purdue opted to not show up because he got really embarrassed last time when Ossoff kept hammering on being corrupt and belonging in prison.
Yeah, I remember that.
So instead, because he didn't show up, the debate commission's like, well, you agreed to the debate, we're having it. They put an empty podium there, announced basically that Purdue was a coward for not showing up, and then they would ask Ossoff a question, then Ossoff would ask the empty podium a question. It's kind of funny.
No, that's awesome. That's exactly what you should do in that situation, as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? Just fucking dive in. They give you an opportunity like that. Just, make it out to be exactly what it is. A display of cowardice, Mark. And on that note, Jennifer Hartshorn says, nothing says chicken like Purdue. Yeah, there you go.
I didn't know he was a former CEO of Dollar General till today, and I saw that, and I was like, of course he is, man.
Yes, it very much checks out. Yeah, just like making his bones off the backs of poor people. I'll be honest for a minute, to take a little tangent here. It is that kind of like predatory poverty predation. It's predatory shit like title loans and checking the cash places and that type of thing. Yeah. I think dollar stores are another version of that. But I grew up in poverty, in a poverty-ridden area where, like, all we had was dollar stores, other than, like, the one grocery store. And it was like a thing I had to come around to, realizing how they were shitty. I do now. But what I'm saying is, like, the dollar store was just a staple of my childhood and early adulthood, in the rural poverty-stricken South, but that's their whole thing.
they would defend themselves saying their medium price point in areas where it's necessary, but there are a lot of studies that show they chase out real grocery stores. And I think we talked about it last week, but like they save money by they make things cheaper by selling smaller amounts at higher rates. So like
right.
You're not getting a cheaper gallon of milk. You're getting a 2/3 of a gallon of milk that costs the same as a gallon would in a regular store.
Yep. So. Yeah. Chris McCain says the podium had more personality than Loeffler or Loeffler. Yeah, Andrew. And he ain't not the first one to point that out, but like he said earlier, Georgians didn't want her in the first place. She just got like imposed upon them. And even hardcore right wingers in Georgia, they don't seem to give a single fuck about her, which I think is great.
I mean, I'm sure when Kemp picked her, he didn't think about whether that she'd ever need charisma because they've already rigged the elections enough. But like her never having run for office, this seems like a real there's a reason she didn't stand. Like she ain't got it, man.
She don't.
I say this as a charisma lacker. She's one of my people. But it's also, I mean, so I don't know if I remember the dynamic correctly. Trump wanted Collins to be appointed, and Kemp appointed Loeffler against Trump's wishes, which is one of the reasons Trump's had beef with Kemp for 2 years for going against him. So she wasn't just forced on Georgians at large; she was forced on Trumpers too, right?
Right.
So,
yeah, nobody likes or gives a fuck about her.
No.
Which again, I'm still not counting that as a victory or anything necessarily, because just the way things tend to go. But again, it seemed like I'm enjoying how that appears to be playing out and being received. Like, I don't know, man. We got a lot of things lining up in our favor in Georgia right now, in my opinion. Again, I'll still believe it when I see it. But I just feel like shit is coming together in a favorable way because of things like this.
It will feel more normal to have a Democratic Senate and Congress and instead be mad at them for not doing anything with it. That'll be a relief to be that.
Mark, you're being taken to task here. I don't know the facts of this scenario, but Barbara Finn Visconti says Dollar Tree sells smaller versions of products. Dollar General of Purdue fame does not.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since I've been in one. I'll take your word for it, man. I do, but the studies about them pushing out real grocery stores and creating food deserts is like it's pretty. They got them pretty dead to rights. Which is just like when you don't eat fresh, you don't get access to fresh produce. It causes health problems down the road and makes people's lives more expensive in the long run. So it's like they're not good.
Yeah, Deborah Negrete says. Please don't give Trump media coverage after January 20th. I agree with you. Nothing will make me happier than for him to just disappear forever. I do not believe that's going to happen. He's still going to be out there doing his thing, pissing dumb people off. And as long as he's doing that, I think he's going to pop up every now and then. But yeah, I have no desire to ever utter his name again.
It's so weird. They finally did the first round of primary polling where they included him after he said he was going to run again. And he polled at 57%, Trey. And the next closest one was Don Jr. at 7%. Like,
right. Yeah, right. Yeah,
he's never going away. But like, we'll know more if they split screen the inauguration with his rally on January 20th. We'll know we're in for hell. But if they just sort of ignore it and do 5 minutes on it as a wrap up, then we'll be like, okay, maybe we're free.
Well, like, don't you kind of feel like a version of that has sort of already happened? Meaning, like, I was terrified about the potential of this like false victory for Trump on election night, which did end up happening. And meaning like that on election night, he would go out there because we hadn't counted mail-in votes or whatever, and he would just declare victory. And I was terrified about the implications of that and what that would turn out to mean. But it did happen. And it kind of didn't really end up mattering so far because enough, I don't know, either sane or objective people are left that they were like, no, that ain't the deal. That ain't what it means. I thought he would just get the benefit of the doubt just because of the amount of power he had built up on the right in this country. And I feel like that kind of didn't happen. So I'm hoping that will also carry over to, his big 2024 announcement and that type of shit, that it'll kind of also just be disregarded.
Oh, thank you, Sherry. I'd like to rep my home state.
Yeah, Sherry Powers, I like your hat, Smart Mark. It's a good one.
They just got rid of no-knock warrants. So thank you, Governor Northam. That's a step in the right direction, I think. By the way, Northam, coming out of the blackface scandals, which were awful, has been a pretty solid, decent governor, I think, from the stuff I've read. I don't keep up with the Virginia news like I should, but shout out to Ralph Northam. I thought I was going to say something.
I was talking about Trump being like not being taken seriously just because he says a thing is basically what I was trying to get at.
The 57% number is a sign he's not going away, but it's kind of weak, right? The sitting president is only polling at 57, so 43% of Republicans would rather just say, let's just do something else now. So that's a decent chunk.
Yeah,
I'm hoping people don't like his whole brand as being a bulletproof winner. And once he's lost and he's just sort of roaming around the country doing rallies, it'll seem pathetic to me personally. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Well, who knows? We'll see what happens. All right. Well, that's it. We're out of time. Thank you guys very much. We'll see you in 48 hours on Thursday's edition of Evening Skews. See you. Love you. Bye.